What if I told you that true freedom hides in silence? The camera slowly glides through abandoned streets where nature has reclaimed its rights. Ruined buildings entwined with roots and green vines stand as silent witnesses of a bygone era. The wind whispers its secrets, and drops of water falling from the leaves create a melody that no living soul has ever heard. A mysterious atmosphere envelops everything around, prompting one to ponder what lies beyond the boundaries of time. Amidst this emptiness, in an old library with worn pages and dusty shelves, there is a person who, like these books, has preserved his story. He wanders through the halls, feeling every whisper of the pages as if they are calling him to delve deeply into himself. Fragments of the past intertwine with each passing thought, like vines wrapping around a wall. The fear of being alone with oneself is an enemy that provides no peace even in a world devoid of familiar worries. Every shadow, every rustle fills him with new fears and doubts. But the deeper he digs into ancient texts, the clearer it becomes that the answer lies here, among forgotten knowledge. Touching the pages of old books gives birth to new thoughts and ideas, answering the deepest questions. Through philosophical contemplation, he begins to unravel the thread of his fears and desires, and with each new discovery, he gets closer to understanding his own soul. In this solitude, he finds not only silence, but also a power that can change everything. Like stars in a cloudless sky, his thoughts begin to shine, illuminating the darkest corners of his consciousness. Every moment alone with himself becomes a step toward revelation, toward looking within and discovering who he is in this forgotten world. Silence, once terrifying, becomes a faithful companion. In this silence, he starts anew, spending his time on the pages of books. He gains the life he has dreamed of. Silence is not loneliness, it is a space for growth and thus the key to true freedom. What if unexpected hope lies hidden in the heart of silence? He stands among the endless shelves, dust-covered, feeling each book whispering to him. The smell of incense mixed with the aroma of old pages fills his lungs as if trying to give strength to his weary spirit. Around him is darkness and silence, interrupted only by the clicks of water droplets falling from the roof. This is a library. This is his fortress. But within this refuge lies its own isolation, casting a thorny shade of loneliness. He picks up one of the books, its cover cracked with time, and perhaps the lost lines align into something greater than mere words. The world around him is deserted, and he feels this silence scream, pointing to the fact that once there were conversations, laughter, disputes here. All of it seems intertwined with his existence. A spark ignites in his eyes. He seeks not just salvation from the outside world, but comfort, understanding. The book in his hands is not just a means to lose himself in imagination, it is a chance to find a path to himself, to learn what is happening inside. Why is he still here? What awaits him when life beyond these walls leaves no space for hope? Perhaps here, among the lost stories, he will find his companions. Souls who lived before him and with whom he can share his thoughts, fears, and dreams. He opens the pages and the air fills with a sensation as if the world begins to come alive, lifting the veil over his isolation. And perhaps it is here, amidst dust and abandonment, that he will find something important, not only for himself, but for all who have ever felt just as lonely. What if silence could become your worst enemy? We all fear loneliness, but sometimes it finds us in the most unexpected moments. The hero, holding a volume of The Unknown, nervously surveys the library. The steel shelves filled with books patiently waiting for their readers create a sense of a silent court. Each whisper of the pages reminds him of those who spent their days here, hiding from the outside world. He realizes that around him is only emptiness and the echo of his own thoughts. which like shadows lurk in the corners of his mind. He slowly walks between the rows of books like a dancer on the stage of a lonely theater, and with each step feels the weight of silence pressing down on him, making his soul contract with anxiety. Here, in this sanctuary of knowledge, he feels on the edge. Every rustle, every invisible gaze pushes him to the thought that loneliness is not just the absence of people around, but a true poison for the mind. Unable to withstand this mounting pressure, he wonders, what if his true fear lies hidden in this loneliness? What if right now, when he is left alone with his thoughts, he confronts what he has been avoiding for so long? This library, once a home to him, now seems like a trap, where every corner whispers, "Tell me your secrets." The inner conflict intensifies. Laughter and joy are what he wants to feel, but instead the silence filling the space seems even more ominous than the people who have left him. Every whisper of his thoughts becomes a scream, breaking into his consciousness, calling for action. He realizes that to cope with the fear of loneliness, he must face it head-on, even if the path to this becomes the hardest choice of his life. What if I told you that there is a world full of ideas and philosophies, each of which can change your perception of life? When my gaze accidentally fell upon an old, dusty book, time seemed to stop for a moment. I felt the cold breath of history touch me, and my hand involuntarily reached for the cover. As I flipped through the yellowed pages, I saw something more than just text. I saw the traces of previous readers. Their marginal notes spoke voices as if whispering their secrets to me, treasures of knowledge waiting to be uncovered. What is this book? It contained the thoughts of great minds, questions that had troubled humanity for centuries. Each paragraph is not just a set of words, it is a key to understanding oneself and the world around us. The reflections of others, capturing fears and hopes, were like a mirror. With each page, I increasingly understood that knowledge is not just information, but a path to inner exploration. I closed my eyes and imagined reading this book, as if entering a parallel world where each idea takes my hand and leads me into uncharted territories. The feeling of being not just a reader, but a wanderer in this endless journey was captivating. This old book, covered in dust, seemed to be alive, ready to share the treasures once enjoyed by others. Every mark, every note told me how important it is not to forget about exploring the inner world. And what if I told you that your understanding of life could completely change right here, on the pages of this book? Are you ready to discover a new world full of possibilities and unexpected discoveries? What if I tell you that in every corner of our mind, happy moments we have forgotten are hiding? When I close my eyes, I am there again, in the library where streams of light penetrate through large windows, illuminating the pages of books that embrace the scents of parchment and dust. I remember how we gathered with friends, laughing and discussing books, seeking adventures among the shelves. Every day was a new discovery, and the walls of the library reminded us that the world is full of amazing stories. We laughed so hard that our voices drowned out the whispers of the pages, and loud bells signaled new encounters with the characters of the works. Now there is only silence. I hear my heart beating in time with loneliness. The soft, sharp sound of pages turning in the wind reminds me that no one comes anymore. But then a flash flickers in my thoughts, just at the moment when we hid behind the bookshelves to perform our little theatrical plays, and our laughter echoed up to the ceiling. I remember how comfortable it was to share my thoughts, and how the opinions of friends suddenly opened new horizons. Now, between the words, there is neither whisper nor laughter, only the echo of old days that skips through empty corridors, fading into infinity. Is it worth remembering how we dreamed of future successes and adventures? how dreams seemed like realities, where each new day was a masterpiece on the canvas of life. Now I only look at the endless rows of books where only shadows walk. And it seems that in this silence lies all my nostalgia. This empty place reminds me how bitter and unbearable it is to be alone among such memorable moments. I know that returning to this life is impossible, but every moment spent here leaves a mark that is hard to erase. Are lost memories really all that remains of the bright days when everyone laughed and life pulsed with inspiration in our veins? What if I tell you that your fears are just shadows created by your mind? Standing in this dark corner of the library, I feel their presence. They whisper in my ear, making me doubt myself. "You won't make it," says one of the ghosts. "You'll never achieve this," adds another, smirking and full of mockery. These gloomy entities are my doubts, born from the past. Why am I so afraid? Do others feel the same way? How many opportunities have I let slip by following this inner voice? I open my eyes, and in response I hear only silence. "They know a lot about you," I continue. "Do you remember how you dreamed of becoming anyone when you were a child? Why has that disappeared?" I see the shadows dancing, whispering that I have little time. But what if that's not true? "Look around," I say, lifting my gaze to the shelves full of obscure books and forgotten stories. Every book is an opportunity. Every moment is a chance to change something. Why should I let these shadows hold me captive? My hand trembles, but I hold myself together. How many years of my life have I already wasted following this voice? When will I dare to step forward and leave them behind? With every thought, the ghosts begin to dissolve, turning to dust. I feel the walls begin to close in, and courage starts to fill the emptiness inside. I will not fear them any longer. I create my own reality. In the dark corners of this library, I am reborn. What if I told you that silence is not an enemy, but your best ally? It sits in the corner of the library, eternally stripped of its sounds. With his eyes closed, it absorbs every noise, from the rustling of pages to the whisper of thoughts in his mind. The darkness of solitude transforms into a swiftly unfolding play where each chord plays its part. He realizes that it is in this silence that the answers lie, answers he never suspected. Silence, full of unspoken words, becomes his companion. Instead of fearing it, he chooses to embrace it as an opportunity. A moment of revelation arrives. He understands that it is here, away from the bright world that constantly demands attention, that he can meet himself. Each minute in silence fills him with new meaning. He sees his thoughts like sea foam, rising and dispersing, forming patterns that never rush to dissolve. In this moment, he realizes that to find the way to himself, sometimes one must stop and simply sit in silence. With each breath, he feels the sadness and anxiety built up inside gradually quieting, like ripples on the surface of a pond. He begins to smile, understanding that silence does not suffocate but liberates. It is not merely the absence of sound. It is space for reflection, for dreaming, for discovering the true self. And when he opens his eyes again, the world seems completely different to him. The everyday life that surrounded him before begins to fade, giving way to a deeper understanding. He understands. It is not always necessary to chase the noise of life. Sometimes it's worth just pausing, and then silence will tell him more than any shout. What if I tell you that loneliness can become your best friend? On that night when I faced the emptiness in my life, I realized that something had to change. Like being lost in the woods, I was searching for a guiding star. Then I came across the books of Schopenhauer. These pages promised to open doors I had never even imagined. I sat down at the table, surrounded by silence, and opened the first book. The smell of old pages reminded me of forgotten dreams. With every line, I highlighted new thoughts that resonated in my heart. A man needs solitude to meet himself. Such a simple truth awakened something forgotten within me. Why spend years on external pleasures when inner harmony awaits behind the door of self-reflection? I began to take notes, capturing my feelings. Suddenly, as if emerging from the shadows, new ideas appeared, bright as the awakening sun. Are there limits to how deep I can delve into my reflections? Schopenhauer showed me that I am my own limiter. Every highlighted phrase became a key to the inner bonds that had shackled my consciousness. Loneliness is not a punishment, but an opportunity. An awareness that came to me like a gentle breeze. I wanted to dive into the thoughts of other great philosophers. What did they think about self-reflection? At that moment, I ceased to be just an observer. I began to act, breaking down the walls of my internal prejudices. Every word became a tool that helped me build a new world within myself. As I read and contemplated, my shadow, which I had considered part of myself, began to die. In its place, a bright figure emerged, ready for the journey. This philosophy became not just a keystroke. It left a mark in my heart, a tribute to every soulful impulse, every dark depth I needed to explore. And there, among the highlights and notes, I discovered, my inner world is my most valuable resource. This revelation gave me hope and conviction that I could cope with loneliness and turn it into a true ally. My journey was just beginning, but I could already feel that change was coming. On the pages of the books I sought myself, and perhaps I found it. Do you know how loneliness can become your best friend? Sometimes it is in emptiness that we find strength hidden beneath a veil of fears and doubts. When the whole world goes silent, our inner self finds its voice. And so we begin to travel through the very corners of consciousness that have always kept us in fear. Every step through this inner world is a meeting with ourselves. Dreams awaken like invisible creatures that have been tapping on the glass jar of expectations. Fears emerge like shadows on the wall, casting distorted images, frightening with their unseen breath. Or maybe this is freedom? Our struggle is not only against fears, but also a dialogue with dreams and forgotten memories. It's as if we are crossing a bridge that connects our present with the endless possibilities of the future. As my thoughts swirl with strange images, I recall a quiet evening when I stood alone under the starry sky and felt the universe speaking to me. At that moment, I realized loneliness is not a shelter, but a space for growth. Every whisper of the wind, every twinkle of the stars is a reminder that we are not alone. Our soul craves strength and light, but to attain this, we need to overcome the dark tongues of fear that seize us. In this silence, I began to write my inner dictionary. The words of dreams line up into verses that resonate harmoniously against the backdrop of chaos. I see light breaking through the darkness, gifting me hope for a new self. This is the discovery of my inner light. Like a snake shedding its skin, I transform. Pain loses its boundaries and excitement grows like a green sprout breaking through stone. And now, after long journeys through this magical world, I understand. Loneliness is not an enemy. It is a catalyst. It is a chance to rewrite the story of my life, embracing my dreams and accepting my fears. In this dance of inner conflicts, I find myself whole, alive, ready for new achievements. And now, as I grow, I know loneliness is not the end, but the beginning of a great journey. What if I told you that you can only truly live by accepting yourself? The hero stands before shelves of books. Each one glows like a reflection of his soul, available for exploration. So many possibilities, but what to choose? Take the volume where dreams are hidden or settle on dull realities. Each book is a chance to look into his fears and hopes, but he is afraid. Fear is such a heavy burden, especially when unexplored horizons open up ahead. The darkness inside constricts him, making him clench his fists. He runs from himself, from his flaws, from the questions, who am I really, and what's next? But he can't escape. The books seem to whisper to him, we are waiting for you. He imagines how easy it would be to leave everything behind and just run away, as if that were possible. But how long can he hide? How long can he deny the truth that he has long carried in his heart? With the light behind him, the shadows of his fears stretch, draining his confidence. A calm voice, accept reality and gain freedom, echoes in his head. But it is not just a word. It is an action. How to be brave when each volume symbolizes his unresolved questions. He knows his nature demands recognition, but that is the very step he is so afraid to take. He breathes in and immerses himself in gentle tremors, reading the titles. Each page promises an answer, but what if the answers turn out to be complex, painful? What if something opens up that he cannot handle? This choice, to remain in familiar lightness or to take the risk and step into the unknown, tears him apart. Everything around has quieted down, and he understands the choice is his. How many opportunities might remain unused because of fear? Each book is a chance, each page an opportunity to become who he can be. But can he accept his nature? In his hands is fate, and in his heart is fear. A dilemma that needs resolution. The inner conflict ignites. It is time to make a choice. What will happen if you stop limiting yourself? By saying goodbye to the past, I take my first step towards freedom. I close the book in which my fears, doubts, and insecurities were written. With each page I turn, I feel the weight lifting. A deep breath, an inhale filled with fresh air as if I'm exhaling all the burdens of the past. A smile spreads across my face as if the world around me has become brighter. I free myself from the burden of expectations and prejudices that have long kept me in the shadows. It's as if an inner voice whispers, "You deserve more." Silence fills the room. This silence is not frightening, it is inspiring. I remember moments when I was afraid to take a step, when I doubted every decision I made. Now all of that seems like a cloud passing by. I am ready to let go of my immobility and step into the new. The world around me seems so vast, and I am part of this great picture. The freedom I feel is not just an emotion, it is a deep release. Each breath brings new opportunities, and each exhale forgives old mistakes. I no longer want to be a hostage to my fears. The time for change has come. What if I told you that loneliness could become your best friend? The hero steps out of the library, his footsteps echoing on the empty streets filled with desolation. The wind plays with scraps of newspapers, leaving behind traces of days gone by. He feels loneliness cease to be a dark cloud. Instead, it becomes a place where he learns to accept himself, the realization that it is in silence that he found his strength. How many times has he dreamed of company, of not being alone? But now he understands it is this loneliness that helped him see the world from a different angle. Every turn, every crumbling house, it is not just a sign of decline, but an opportunity for a new beginning. A smile begins to break through his thoughtful face like the first ray of sunshine after a long winter. He remembers those moments when, locked in his own world, he asked himself questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Now the answers are becoming clearer. He finds inspiration in silence, as if every lost page of a book hides the wisdom he hadn't noticed before. His inner world blossoms like a spring garden after a passing snowstorm. The hero inhales fresh air, bidding farewell to the burden he no longer needs. On the streets, echoing with stories, he moves forward, determined to create his own. Each step towards new hope is another stroke on the canvas he is now actively painting. Only now does he realize loneliness is not a curse but an opportunity. It is a time for reflection, for understanding his true self. He wants everyone who hears his story to think, how many opportunities are hidden behind the fear of being alone? Let this be the beginning of a new path, a path where loneliness becomes an ally, not an enemy. It is an inspiration that takes your breath away, and he knows. New horizons await on the horizon, filled with hope and light.